Welcome back. Still watching Business Incorporated on Channels Television. We head to the markets now for a red market report with Anite Edits.
Yes, good afternoon, Nini. Well, couple of about an hour ago, before we had that green number, we were, the market was actually trying to climb straight up into, maybe climb higher than the 96,000 points, which you mentioned in Tuesday's trading session. But just a couple of minutes ago, when I checked, the market reverted back into the negative territory.
Yeah.
So that means that there's some profit taking by investors at intraday. So, but let's take a look at the bigger picture of other major markets around the world. But starting off, as usual, with Nigeria stock market, the NGX ASI, well, it has gone back into the red, but this was the last figure that we had, about 0.25% in the green at intraday, 96,743. But this number has gone down to about 96,300 and still oscillating back and forth. But let's just hope that it's able to maintain the 96,000 points, which it got back to, because at some point it fallen down to about 95,000. But we're looking now at the JSE, where we see intraday numbers in the red, 0.05%. That's for intraday numbers. On the other sides of the markets for the continent, we see Egypt in the green, 0.88% at 30,631.25. And for Kenya Stock Exchange, for the close of Tuesday's trading session, down by about 0.43%. And that's it for the markets on the African continent. And now we'll talk about Nigeria's financial markets. And this time we'll be looking first, the fixed income market is a combination we're having this time. For the fixed income market, we saw the treasury bills market as well as the bonds market. We had a bullish performance there yesterday. And then at the same time, we also will be talking about the OMO auction that was carried out about 2 times this week. First, we had one on Monday, and then the second one we also had on Tuesday, which is the central bank carrying out that mop-up activity. And then this is coming in the midst of improved liquidity as well as a FAC inflow into the financial system. So, but the CBN carrying out this this OMO auction. Just last week, we carried out they carried out the treasury bills auction, and this time, as we count down to the end of August, the CBN just intensified this. But to give us the details about this latest auctions by the central bank, that's the OMO auctions, let's have our analyst for today, financial market analyst Nabila Mohammed with Chapel Hill Denham. Thank you for joining us, Nabila.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Anite.
Okay, so my very first question, because I have about 4 questions if time permits me to ask you. My first question is, why is the central bank coming with this persistent OMO auction, and at the same time also coming at a rate higher than the treasury bills auctions carried out last week?
I mean, the last time we saw an OMO auction being floated before yesterday, and or should I say before this week, was sometime towards the end of July. And ever since, system liquidity has improved, and that is why we're seeing the CBN coming up to mop excess liquidity. I mean, we're still in a tight monetary policy stance, and if the system is awash with liquidity, it will not be surprising to see them float an OMO bill, and that's what happened yesterday. We did see them come to mop up excess liquidity, and they exited the market with over 750 billion naira in terms of sale, because most of the interest, of course, were skewed towards the 1-year OMO bill, and that was what we really saw yesterday. Last week, on average, we saw system liquidity, in a net long position. And if we even recall how last week's auctions panned out, there were strong subscription levels, and as you rightly said, all these the FAC inflows, coupled with coupon payments from some of the running bonds in the market, influenced or improved system liquidity, and we did see it remain in a net long position all through for most of the part of last week. And it just explains the reason why we are seeing the CBN coming to float OMO bills to mop up excess liquidity in the system.
Okay. All right, so now that takes me to my second question with you, which has to do with the equities market. On Monday, we saw the Nigeria's GDP coming out, and coming out kind of stronger. We saw the ICT, where the broadcast media as well as telecom sector is part of it. It was the 3rd largest contributor to the GDP, was up by 4.4%. So now we have the likes of MTN Nigeria as well as Airtel Africa listed. Now, they've been having some difficulty or some challenges, but they were able to contribute largely to this GDP report. So now, what can you tell us about these sectors?
So really, the telecom sector is, as you know, an interest to the government, or very much interest to the government, and there are a lot of regulations in there, unlike the manufacturing sector that they can easily just increase prices just to manage the current high inflationary environment and its attendant impact on their performance. The telecom sector cannot do that without seeking the approval of the federal government. That's in terms of increasing tariffs. So that is one of the challenges that the sector is currently facing. Another challenge is, of course, with the issues around FX and how it has impacted their earnings since the devaluation of since the liberalization of the currency last year. However, we are seeing them take some steps, and for MTN, for one, what we notice is that they have renegotiated some of their tower leases with the IHS towers, and that is a positive news we believe would positively impact or improve their earnings going forward. So aside that, there's also the issue around NIN SIM linkage that has made most of these telcos to block a number of Nigerians that are using their line. So there is revenue constraints because of that, and all these are some of the challenges that the sector is facing. In fact, intraday, what we noticed is that MTN is currently down around 6%, and that's as of today. And it's just, given that we have a positive outlook on the company, it is still a time for investors to take position, given that the future is still bright for the sector.
Quite interesting, Nabila. I think we'll leave it there, and then, of course, have a focus on other markets across the globe. Well, thank you so much for your time on our show, and do have a nice day.
Thank you so much.
Nabila Mohammed, equity financial market analyst with Chapel Hill Denham. And now, we won't be able to take Middle East markets, but although we do have it there, just a blip there, major markets across the Middle East were in the red. That's both for the Abu Dhabi, the Dubai, as well as Saudi Arabia and the Qatari Stock Exchange. But let's move over to the United States, where we see major averages there. They were mixed, and this is because investors are actually awaiting the earnings report from NVIDIA. That's the tech giant there, you might also call it the AI giant. For U.S. markets, we see the Dow Jones Industrial Average just negative flat at intraday, or not really intraday. You call it the stock futures. That's well before the market opens Nigerian time, 2:30. For the S&P 500, 0.05% in the green, and NASDAQ 0.08%. So now, year to date, the NASDAQ is up 9.4%, while the S&P are roughly around 18%. Now, but for a summary of what we had for Tuesday's session on Wall Street, let's bring in our Washington correspondent, Maria Bird.
The U.S. stock market had slight gains on Tuesday, as the Dow Jones was up at 0.02%, the S&P 500 up at 0.16%, and the heavy-tech NASDAQ also up at 0.16%. It is clear that many investors are watching to see what the end of the week's earnings report will say. Companies like NVIDIA, there's great hope for, and other artificial intelligence companies. Investors are still hopeful that they will see major gains despite the rough start to the month of August. Investors are also watching to see if Chairman Powell will really cut interest rates in the near future, as last Friday's report showed there could be some interest rate cuts sooner than expected.
That's our Washington correspondent, Maria Bird, with the numbers from Wall Street for the close of Tuesday's trading session. So I wouldn't be able to give you that number for the Asian market, but most of the markets they ended with mixed sentiments. That's because they reacted to Australia's inflation numbers.
All right, thank you so much, Anita.